Hi, Wilfred. Thanks for having us, and thank you, Chairman Kevin Brady, for being here today.
Thanks, Ylan.
So I want to start by asking you about the speech that you're going to be giving later on today. You are here at the Reagan Center in California to talk about tax reform, and you're going to be emphasizing the fact that the White House and Republicans are on the same page on tax reform. You guys are unified, but I have to ask you also about the tension that has arisen between Republicans and the administration over the past few days, particularly over the president's comments around the violence in Charlottesville. Where do you stand on this, and how does this affect tax reform going forward?
So fair question. So we're here at the Reagan Ranch on a very historic day. It was 31 years ago on this day that the House and Senate reached an agreement to deliver to President Reagan far-reaching tax reform cuts. In fact, we're in front of the tax cut table where he signed that legislation. That really laid the foundation for the overall comprehensive, game-changing 86 tax reform. So our message, we want to speak directly to the American people today, to tell them we are working toward that same type of bold, game-changing tax reform. But they're going to need to be engaged in this process. It was the American people that made that work for President Reagan. It will require their engagement and advice and work we deliver this year. Look, I think it's important for the president and me and every leader to strongly condemn the KKK, white supremacists, neo-Nazis who bring this violence to America. You know, I know President Trump said it was repugnant to this country. He's exactly right. And since we're here in California, you know, President Reagan, I think, also hit it right in a major way when he said that the politics of racial hatred and religious bigotry has no place in America because it undermines the very values of our country. And so I think that's exactly the right tone we need to hit as we go forward.
But you see several CEOs now leaving the president's advisory councils because they feel like they can no longer work with him. Can you still work with this administration on an issue like tax reform, given the statements?
Yes, I can. And I think, and in fact, I think there's room for all of America to work with this White House and Congress to do this, because while there are divisions in the country, this is about delivering tax relief to all Americans. You know, every business, large or small, every family up and down the economic ladder. This is an area where President Reagan found unity, and I'm convinced we can do it again. We
have seen a lot of principles, a lot of framework from both you all and from the administration, but we haven't seen a lot of details yet. Here is what National Economic Director Gary Cohn has said about when we might get some more meat on the bones.
We hope we can get taxes done between now and Thanksgiving. We'd like to get infrastructure going as soon as tax comes out of the House and goes to the Senate. We'll put infrastructure into the House.
Thanksgiving. Is that going to happen? Is that really realistic?
So I've learned not to pick certain dates. 2017 is our year to deliver, to make history on tax reform. We're on that timetable. In fact, while we may not be in Washington, we are working. Our tax teams are meeting sometimes twice daily. The principals are having discussions, and soon we'll be visiting by phone together with the White House and the Senate tax writers as well on the progress we're making. So we're working throughout August, preparing tax reform for when we return, but we're on the timetable for delivery this year.
You mentioned that we're sitting by this table where President Reagan signed the 1981 tax bill into law. You and I both know that was a big tax cut, and that reform didn't happen for 5 more years. Is history going to repeat itself this time?
You know, it did take, the 81 cut was important because it showed the American people that finally they could keep more of what their hard earnings in paychecks. You know, and it led to comprehensive tax reform. We're trying to do the same thing in one tax bill now, which lowers taxes for every American, every local business, and vaults America back from almost dead last in the world of competitiveness into that lead pack, just as President Reagan did. So I think the model that we get from the Reagan tax reforms are just critical, especially because American people were so engaged.
Representative Kevin Brady, Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks.